US President Donald Trump has said that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back. He is threatening to bomb Iran so much that the entire 6,000-year-old civilization will be obliterated. Donald Trump then said that it will probably happen unless Iran's government makes a deal. The man who threatened to kill an entire civilization says that if less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Now, Iran is already being pummeled as the deadline approaches. Israel's military has attacked key Iranian infrastructure. At least 2 bridges, railway tracks, and a major highway were attacked. Trains were cancelled in Iran after Israel warned that it would bomb the railway infrastructure of the country. But Iran has refused to submit. It launched yet another wave of missile and drone attacks after being hit. Its retaliation shows no signs of slowing down. Instead, Iran says that it will no longer hold back. The IRGC says that it has been exercising restraint against the Gulf states so far. But once America and its allies across Iran's red lines, it will retaliate without any reservation. Meanwhile, the American Vice President J.D. Vance has weighed in as well, warning Iran to change its course.
We've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
Now, neither side is backing down. Iran is preparing for any American escalation. The country's youth minister has called on Iranians to gather at the power plants to dissuade any attacks on public infrastructure. Local media reports suggest that they have already started forming human chains. An Iranian musician, Ali Ghamsari, has already begun a sit-in outside the Damawan power plant. He says that he would remain at the site and play music in the hope of helping prevent any attacks on energy facilities. The stakes are at an all-time high, and Gulf nations like Qatar are now urging de-escalation before it's too late.
We have been warning since 2023 that escalation left unchecked will get us into a situation where it cannot be controlled. And we are very close to that point. And this is why we have been urging all parties to find a resolution out of this, to find a way of ending this war before it spirals out of control.
The clock is ticking. Trump's deadline draws ever closer, and all of West Asia seems to be on the brink of a new, more brutal phase of death and destruction. The question now is, will either side back down before it's too late? All right, let's get a perspective on what has been happening and what we can expect in the next few hours. John Bynes, Strategic Director, joins me, is at the Concerned Veterans for America, United States Marine Corps and Army National Guard veteran, joining us live from Washington, D.C. at the moment. Good evening and welcome to WION. I want to start by asking you what you expect in the next few hours. There's a 12-hour deadline that is set to expire in some time from now. There are threats and counter-threats that are coming in. Should we expect a deal at all?
I'd like to say I'm optimistic, and I really hope that we see a negotiation that leads to at least a ceasefire, if not more. But I'm actually pessimistic, and I am truly afraid that this war will escalate this evening here in the U.S. and in Iran. It's very unfortunate it's gotten to this state, but I am very concerned. I think there's a better than 50-50 chance that this does escalate this evening.
So it's interesting how the Trump administration is playing this out. While Donald Trump just posted on his Truth Social that an entire civilization will die tonight and that 47 years of corruption will end. On the other hand, you've got his vice president, J.D. Vance, who spoke in Hungary saying that, look, the negotiations are ongoing and I'm hopeful of a deal. So it's almost like a good cop, bad cop that the Trump administration is playing at the moment. Whom should we believe? You've got Donald Trump, who has been putting out threats after threats. That could be a pressure tactic as well.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying here in America, Donald Trump should be taken seriously, but not literally, right? So one hopes that that's what's going on. threatening an entire civilization and certainly attempting to destroy an entire civilization does not reflect, American founding principles. It doesn't reflect America's historic place in the world. And that level of force is something where, I believe, and the folks at Concerned Veterans for America believe, that if we need to get to that level of force, this is where Congress should weigh in, using its war powers under Article 1 of the Constitution. That kind of force, leveling force against a people and not just a government, really requires our Congress, the American people through our Congress, to make the decision, and not just the executive branch of the U.S. government.
Let me also ask you about the Iranian side, John. They have been claiming that there are no negotiations. Then they said the negotiations have been put on hold after, Donald Trump put out this latest threat. But they've also seen reported strikes by America on the Kurg Island, as well as Israeli strikes on its rail infrastructure today. And therefore, how do you expect the Iranian leadership at the moment to move forward with the negotiations? Clearly, this will be a setback in those talks.
It will absolutely be a setback, and the Iranians continue to hold significant leverage with their ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is a very tough knot to crack from a military perspective. That the Iranians control territory around it that has high ground, that has places they can hide weapon systems. They can use over-the-horizon weapon systems like their drones from the other side of those mountains. And it makes it very, very tough for a landing force to control that strait. Not controlling that strait makes it very, very hard to access the Persian Gulf. So Iran continues to hold that card. It's unclear to me, but I'm dubious that destroying their power plants or bridges or any other civilian infrastructure will do anything but encourage them to continue to try and choke the strait.
So let me quickly then conclude our conversation by asking you this, John. If at all a deal happens, how will that move forward? If at all a deal does not happen, how do you see Donald Trump then escalating this entire situation? Will he, or will he then consider the kind of setbacks that the American military has also been facing?
I think that there's a possibility that there are hints of a deal and that there may be a delay, an extended deadline. But I'm sure that in order for that to become real, there need to be like a ramp down in the rhetoric on our side, on the U.S. side, for there to be real negotiations to proceed. Again, a ramp up, a bombing campaign that levels bridges, that levels power plants, that levels civilian infrastructure, and deeply affects the Iranian people is going to be damaging. It's probably going to lead to retaliation against Gulf states, against the Straits of Hormuz, the release of further Iranian proxy forces around the globe, and it's going to cause global pain. So one hopes that we can get our way to a negotiated settlement, but it's not looking very encouraging in the near term.
All right, let's wait and see. The entire world has its eyes on the next few hours. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, John Bynes, for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thanks for having me on.